Hi, my name's John. Welcome to part 2 in a series of short videos all about the use of the metal turning lathe. In this video I'm going to show a little bit about lathe tools, the various shapes of tools, high-speed steel tools as well as carbide tools. These are the 4 most common tools that I use. That tool there is a right hand knife tool. That probably does 90% of your lathe work for facing and sliding cuts. That's a left hand knife tool. It's just the opposite to that one. That tool there is used for putting chamfers on and also for taking heavy cuts for roughing out material. And that tool there is a boring tool for making holes in material. These are all carbide tools, inexpensive tools. They weren't expensive at all. The tips are very cheap, and for what they are, they do quite well. These are high-speed steel tools, which are probably more useful on a smaller, lower powered lathe. These can be ground to whatever shape you need. We've got normal knife tools, we've got a chamfer tool. That's a piece of plain high-speed steel that hasn't been ground, and that's a boring tool that I've had for a long time, and it really is a good tool. I use that quite a lot. You can buy ready ground high-speed steel tool sets that aren't expensive, and it certainly is a good way to start. Once you get a feel for things and you realise what's happening, then you can start grinding your own tools. There's books and there's hours and hours of videos all about tools, tool angles, relief angles, how to grind them. I'm not going to go into great details about grinding tools. Screw cutting tools and parting tools will be covered as we cover screw cutting and parting off, but basically I just want to show you the basic tools and their uses. The lathe tool is held in a tool holder. That's the tool holder there. That simply drops onto there and is locked in place with that handle. What it also does, there's a nut on here that you can adjust up or down to set up the height of the end of that tool. The tool must be dead on centre height of the job. So that's locked in place. You can loosen that off and change that to any angle you want to get your clearance angle right for whatever you're machining. It means you can take this off and put another tool on, and you know that the tool has been set up on centre height. It's a really quick way of doing things. And the boring bar goes on the back one, and that's for cutting internal holes. The other method is a square tool post, and you put little shims underneath the tools to pack them up onto working height. It works just the same, just it takes a lot more time to set up. I mentioned that the tool tip must be on centre height. This is probably the easiest way to set it up. I've put a centre in the lathe tailstock, and the very tip of that is exactly the centre height of the lathe. I'll bring the camera in closer and we'll see if we can get this lifted up to be at the right height. You can see that the tool is actually above centre height. So we loosen it off, drop it down until it is in line with the centre, which is there. That's pretty good. That's going to get you very, very near. Another way to set the tool on centre height is to simply put a piece of round bar in the chuck. Put your tool in the tool holder. If you put a steel ruler between the round bar and the tool and just a little nip on the tool, you can see how the ruler is lying towards me. It's lying like that, which means that the tool is too low. So if we lift the tool up, that's better. A little bit more. Well, that certainly appears to be lying vertical or perpendicular, possibly slightly more up. That looks good. You could put a square on, I suppose, and compare it to a square, but basically that looks good. If we put a square on there and bring it in, you can see it's actually Still too low. It wants to come across a little bit. The gap at the top is less than it is at the bottom, so we'll bring it some more. And that is just about as good as they're going to get, I would think. We'll try a face and cut and see where the tool is actually lying. Right, so there's no little pip on the end, so that is dead on centre height. The same tool can be used to put a chamfer on the end. I mentioned earlier that this right hand knife tool is the most common tool in use. It can be used for facing. You can take a facing cut like that. And also for turning, for reducing the diameter. So it does both those jobs on the same setting very nicely indeed. This is actually stainless steel. Nasty stringy chips off the bastard stuff. I've changed the tool. This tool is used for putting chamfers on like that, and also for taking heavier cuts. You take a real heavy cut with this tool and the chips are very thin but quite broad. Obviously this is a very rigid, stiff lathe, but the same applies to a lesser degree. On a smaller lathe you just take smaller cuts. So them two tools are probably the most common tools used on the lathe. I will take that one out and put its equivalent in, which is a high-speed steel tool. This needs setting up for centre height because I know I used it before. So we'll do that now. We'll use the ruler method. That's pretty good. Right, so this is high-speed steel tooling on stainless, and it works perfectly alright. You can't take as big a cut as you can with carbide, but it's still nice, you get a good finish. And the beauty is you can resharpen it. One important thing is how much tool you have poking out of the tool holder. It needs to be as short as possible. That's called overhang. When that bar is spinning round and you're taking a cut, it's physically trying to tear this tool down over. It's trying to twist everything down like that. That's why everything needs to be as rigid and solid as possible. So what you don't have is a tool all the way out there, because you're going to increase the loading, you're going to get vibration and chatter. They need to be in as close and tight as possible. Overhang is one of your major problems on lathes. I think that's enough for this section on tooling. So that's two types, high speed steel and carbide. I use carbide most of the time, but I also do use high speed steel. If you're using a small hobbyist lathe, you'll probably find you end up using high speed steel. But carbide tooling has become easily accessible now. It's not expensive, so it certainly is worth experimenting with. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little bit video. If you have any questions or anything you want us to discuss, just send us an email. Anyway, thanks for watching.